I was into Pokemon. Not like a huge fan or anything, but I did play the 3DS Pokemon games, but not too much. Watched most of the Indigo League, collected some of the trading cards, but even still, I've never fully gotten into the actual franchise. My peak interest for Pokemon was around 2015-2016, but like I said, even still, I wasn't a real diehard about it. After about 2017 or so, my interest in Pokemon died down and it was just another game franchise to me. Nowadays, I always see my mutuals or some Nintendo YouTubers I still follow be really into Pokemon, and I don't know, I feel kind of left out in a way. I mean, I would like to get into Pokemon even if it's the same level of interest as my 2015-2016 days, but after seeing what Pokemon has been doing since Sword and Shield, it's just preventing me from actually getting into the franchise. Now, you may be asking, what exactly is the point of this video? And to be honest, the answer is, I like to yap, but also talk about my thoughts, and who knows, maybe the viewer watching could share a similar thought with me about this, or you might think I'm more crazier than Antonio Brown. But whatever it might be, as an adult, getting into Pokemon is hard, and here's why I think that. Number 1. Quality issues. Got Pokemon Violet as the game I should attempt to get into the franchise, and my reasoning will be explained later in the video. So, I played Pokemon Violet, and without sugarcoating it, might legitimately be the worst game Nintendo has published. Graphics look straight out of a launch title PS2 game. This made me think I was a tiny bit too harsh on Sword and Shield, as the models for Scarlet and Violet are also the worst looking yet. At least for Sword and Shield they look fine, they feel like Pokemon. Scarlet and Violet, however, just feel like bootleg IMVU models. They just look weird. It isn't Pokemon. Many different medium-sized issues stack on top of that as well, like the fact this game just felt very lazy. Not only from the graphics, but the cutscenes itself, as when it's an actual cinematic cutscene and there's no voice acting. Doesn't sound like a big deal until you notice it has full lip syncing, but no actual voices are coming out, so in the end it just looks really awkward. There are fan edits where they put in voice acting in those cutscenes and they unironically make the cutscenes 10 times better. Also, the eating animation. Another thing I just don't get is, why does Nintendo still release 2 variations of the same game in the modern day? At least for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, there are some notable changes like the head Pokemon shaders being different, but other than that in the Legends, they're still the same game! Ooh, cool, excited to buy a $60 game twice to get a specific variation and get like 5 extra Pokemon. Woo! Like, if EA or Ubisoft pulled this stunt, they would get lambasted by this decision, but since it's Pokemon, it's just fine apparently. Also, I remember people defending Pokemon not adding back all the Pokemon by saying it was either too much resource or that they were going to use that effort to make the game. For the resource one, Pokemon is literally one of the biggest media franchises in the world, like bigger than Star Wars. They quite literally have an infinite resource, and they could use that resource to make the game goated from amazing graphics, actual effort and animation, and etc. And it won't even make it a tiny dent in their account. And for the effort one, well, that clearly wasn't the case. But those points would end up being disproven, as they ended up bringing a good chunk of removed Pokemon back as DLC. Yes, you heard that right. Instead of adding all the old Pokemon back, they locked them behind a paywall. This is literally something that EA would do. But nope, it's from the Pokemon Company and Game Freak, and people just don't care. I'm not mad at the fact that they didn't include all the Pokemon. I know some Pokemon are more irrelevant than others, but I'm mad at the fact that they removed them, then added them back behind a paywall. It's just a scummy move in general. And it's not like just because they're big, they don't have to care. Mario, a franchise also owned by Nintendo, and one of the few franchises to go band for band with Pokemon, literally gave their workers no deadlines, nothing. Just when the game felt complete and perfect, then turn it in. And guess what? It was a success! Meanwhile, Pokemon sets a crazy deadline, even though the game is like 50% done, and release it as it is just to make a profit. I know I'm rambling on about the last part, but it's still a necessary point to be made. With all the issues with the game and how the game is handled, it makes me look at Pokemon and go, this is the franchise everybody loves? A game riddled with bugs, horrible graphics, lazy quality, and scummy moves, yet it's loved by fans? It's so hard to support a franchise that you know if they put in the same amount of effort as the Mario devs, it would be a grand slam out of the park, but instead are just content with mediocrity. And this leads into my second point. Number 2, why play when the alternatives are better? Nintendo games on the Switch, they're all genre-defining games that you would want to play over alternatives. Mario Odyssey redefined the 3D platforming genre, why play the alternatives? Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom redefined the open world genre, why play the others? New Horizons redefined the life sim genre, why play the alternatives? Even if it ain't redefining the genre, it could still go band for band with the alternatives, like how Metroid Dread did with the Metroidvania genre. How does Pokemon Violet handle with the turn-based RPG genre? Well, it doesn't. It doesn't even go band for band with the alternatives, it just kinda does more or less the same thing that it's always been doing. If you're wondering what I'm expecting Pokemon on the Switch to even be like, well, something in tune to Legends Arceus. I've never played Legends Arceus, but from what I've seen and heard from the gameplay, it kinda looks like a huge step in the right direction for Pokemon. There are still some problems with the game, but I would say that the pros outweighs the cons. In terms of alternative turn-based RPGs, why play Pokemon Scarlet and Violet when Persona 5 Royale, Persona 3 Reload, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Final Fantasy, and Amori are all on the market and easily clear Scarlet and Violet, hell, all for even cheaper too. And even if you say, well, they're all M-rated games, why would a child play them over Pokemon? Well, there's always Xenoblade Chronicles, Thousand Year Door, hell, I would even say the Origami King are all more polished and graphically better than Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and they're all under Nintendo too. Palworld is also a better game than Scarlet and Violet, and I know it's not graphically better nor polished than Scarlet and Violet, but the difference is, Palworld was made by an indie company with limited resources, while Scarlet and Violet is made by one of the biggest game companies in the world, yet refuses to put in 25% effort in the actual game. You wanna know a portion of why Palworld blew up the way it did besides the fact that it's Pokemon with guns? It's because 25% of the Pokemon fans who actually don't like how the series was heading just got fed up with the complacent mediocrity and just wanted something that was fun. Time is also a factor in this too. Most adults don't have that much time in general, whether it be work, social life, or trying to balance the sleep schedule. So when you barely have time or money, why waste it on a low quality game like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet when you can spend your time on an actually good turn-based RPG alternative? If you're a kid, the thing that entices you about Pokemon is the monsters, the battling, the catching, all the flashy cool stuff. When you're an adult, all you care about is a good game. And unfortunately for a good chunk of people, the flashy cool stuff being the main driving point isn't gonna work anymore. And I know some people will be like, well, just play the old games. And I could, but I just feel like two things. Number one, I feel like getting into the newest mainline games feel the best because it's the most readily available. Plus, in most cases, expand upon the series. For example, starting off with Mario Odyssey instead of Super Mario Bros. Tears of the Kingdom instead of Zelda on the NES. Persona 5 Royale / 3 Reload instead of Persona 1. Final Fantasy 16 / 7 Rebirth instead of Final Fantasy 1. You get the idea. That's why when I wanted to get back into the franchise, I decided to go with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And 2, the old games are very hard to get anyways. I know you can use emulation, but a great chunk of people want to play on the legitimate hardware, and it's hard to do when the prices are a complete nightmare. I want to remind you, these games didn't sell a combined 100,000 units. No, these were some of the console's best sellers. And when you're an adult trying to manage money in this economy, spending this much on a game from a couple decades ago is completely out the question. That is going to be all for this video. This video is just my opinion though, so if you agree or disagree, then let me know down in the comments below. A positive thing though is that the Pokemon Company are now aware of the state of the game, so they're at least going to put a little bit more effort into the games. In fact, it will already be 3 years between Scarlet and Violet and Legend Z, and what seems like no other major Pokemon game coming out in the same year, I actually have some hope for Legend Z. This is the Pokemon Company / Game Freak. They'll probably eliminate that thought within a dime. But anyways, do you also feel the same way with Pokemon, or is this just a me problem? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye bye!